There's no question gun control is a very divisive topic in our country. In January, President Obama issued an executive order which would expand background checks and provide additional funding to hire more FBI and ATF agents. Gun control advocates have long claimed tougher laws would prevent gun homicides and help prevent many mass shootings. Gun rights supporters, however, say no matter what laws you pass, criminals will break them. Connecting Point correspondent Carolee McGrath sat down with a firearms instructor who has a law enforcement background to talk about everything from the need for weapons training to the idea of gun-free zones.
So at the beginning of the year, President Obama started off with a controversial executive order on gun control, and part of which included expanding background checks. If I want to apply for a gun in the state of Massachusetts, how long does it take for me to get through that process?
On average, in talking to the people that take our class, it can be anywhere from 2 months to up to 6 months. That 6 months is about the longest
So that's
I've
a long
been told.
time.
Yes, it is.
And so it's not like I could come to you if there was, a domestic situation or something, and I wanted to get a gun that night. It's not like
No.
I could do that.
No,
Okay.
there's no way, because you still have to take the classroom portion, then you have to file for it, which takes time, and then it has to go to the state police. The state police send it back to the locals, and then you get your license to carry.
And you have the certificates.
Yes, I do.
Are there a few different certificates you need in order to carry?
No, you need one certificate. What we do is you take the class with us, and at the end of the class, you're provided with a certificate with the state logo on it. So that means you've taken a course from an instructor. The instructor has to be appointed by the colonel from the state police. So all the certificates for instructors are signed by the state police.
Now, how do you feel about people being able to carry a gun for protection?
My biggest issue, and it's not even an issue, is I would just like to see people get more training. You can't just pick up a gun at, Paper City or somewhere like that and get a gun and be proficient with it. It takes thousands and thousands of rounds and hours of training to become proficient with a firearm. Most people go to a range and they shoot during daylight hours and they're static and they just pull the trigger. Self-defense for shooting means you've got the proper weapon, proper ammo, drawing from a holster that's concealed, and then, engaging your target, knowing how many rounds you need to put in the target and hitting the target. You can't get that from a video game. You can't get that from just, watching somebody else. You physically have to do the skill at a range under, hopefully, the tutelage of an experienced instructor.
So you're a little uneasy about it or a little cautious about it, would you say?
I'd like to say I'm cautious about it because, I would like to see something where, I don't want to mandate it, but I'd like to say, try to convince people to go out, if they do buy a firearm, to shoot. I tell my people that take my class, I'd like to see you shoot a box of ammo a month, which is not cost prohibitive.
Which would really make them up to date on their skills. Critics of stricter gun control laws have said that really we should look at gun-free zones, for example, schools where you've had these mass shootings, and allow people to carry, whether it be a principal or a teacher. How do you feel about that?
I don't know if I'd want some teachers taking a long shot down a hallway. I would look at, they would need some extensive training. But then even before you have the shooter, you have other elements. Did the school talk to the police about someone that was showing signs? Was there any counseling involved? Was there any signs before this that we could have stopped what particularly happened? There are cases where, vice principal or principal stopped the shooting down south because he went to his...
It was Mississippi, and he had to run back to his truck.
Yep.
And there were 2 kids that were killed in that situation,
Correct.
but he was able to stop it from being even more deadly.
Right, and he never fired a shot. So
you look at that and you say, well, does that make sense?
to some extent, it could help, but I look at the fact that if he had to fire the shot, I look at the next step. If there's kids running at him, like in Columbine,
Right.
Would he be able to shoot down a long hallway accurately and stop the shooters advancing? Would he accidentally hit one of the other kids? How often does he shoot? Who are his instructors? You just can't pick up a gun and be like T.J. Hooker or one of these other movies and just be able to hit somebody 60 yards away.
Okay, so you're cautious on that as well.
Yes.
Do you think that assault weapons, for example, should be banned? Many people have talked about that with, all of these horrible shootings that we've seen.
Correct. I wouldn't ban them. I mean, people use them for hunting varmints. It's really not a home self-defense weapon because of the speed that the round travels. But, you can still go out. They do 3-gun competitions. You have a rifle, a handgun, and a shotgun. I think those are great things. They provide to the economy. Gun ranges need money to operate. The companies make the guns, so they make profits off of the guns. There's instructors out that teach these things. There's the endorsements that some of these shooters get. And for the most part, most people are legal gun owners that take care of their guns. They follow the rules. They've got either a trigger lock on them, or they have a cable lock, or they're stored properly to keep them from kids.
Right. How do you feel about the Second Amendment? I have a very good friend who is watching this show, and we've talked about the Second Amendment. And I'm going to read it to you. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. His argument is, well, the Founding Fathers really meant the first part, a well-regulated militia. People really don't need guns like the Wild Wild West. How do you feel?
If they saw now what I've seen, I spent 18 and a half years with the local sheriff's department and 25 years on the ambulance. I have no doubts there are some people I do not want to see carrying weapons. I would never want to see the weapons in some of these people's hands. I believe that a law-abiding citizen should be able to keep a gun at home and stored properly. So if they wish to use it for self-defense, or if they wish to take it to the range, enter competitions, go family shooting, whatever it is, I think they should be able to do that. I have no problems currently with any of the laws in Massachusetts. There's disqualifiers on the application on page 2 that prevent people from getting handguns.
Who shouldn't have them?
Correct, because they've had something in their background that says, you should not have a weapon. But also conversely, if they find that you can't have one for whatever reason, you have the right to appeal that. So it can go up the chain of command. So you may, after an appeal, still get it because you prove that you are able to keep a handgun safely at home.
So last question. People on both sides have actually talked about this. You look at our schools and they're soft targets,
Correct.
as you know. I mean, anybody can walk into a school, and we've seen it happen, and it's so tragic. Do you think that maybe if you had armed guards in our schools, and we really made an investment in that across the country, do you think that would be the solution?
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, right now you have SRO, school resource officers, that are armed in most of the schools.
But not enough.
No.
You have our banks protected. You
Right.
have our politicians protected.
Right. How about we pull the people that are guarding the politicians and we bring them to protect the schools? Or we hire people that are retired police officers, retired federal service officers to patrol around the schools. Well,
you worked in the prisons. You know how criminals think. Correct. Would it be a deterrent?
So the element that I worked with didn't do mass shootings. These are people that may have had psychological issues, may have had some other things in their history. The element I had were people that did, that robbed, committed, felonies that were subject to 2.5 years of incarceration. I think in some cases, if the person were to go to a school and they knew there was an SRO or an armed person there, they might go after that person first to take them out. But it would give the armed person a chance to engage the shooter and maybe stop him either verbally or physically before they entered. I mean, the shooting in Connecticut, there were things in place. The doors were locked. He went through the doors, and he went down just one single hallway, and he created the carnage in the hallway, and that was a legally purchased firearm.
And the response time for the police was amazing.
Yes.
I mean, they had an incredible response time, but it didn't matter. It just wasn't fast enough.
Right.
So these are big cases, big problems. I don't think we're going to solve them today, but we really appreciate your perspective, your professional perspective on this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.